This is episode 9 of the series. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The scene begins with zombies wandering the streets, some feeding on the remains of the dead. One zombie notices something approaching. It's the bus our protagonist is driving, and he plows through the zombies, sending them flying with each impact. He expertly weaves through traffic, speeding down the highway. The scene shifts to a building, where a cop and his gang are sitting in a circle, eating. The kid hears a vehicle approaching and thinks it might be the protagonist arriving. The cop hushes everyone and decides to check who it is. He peeks out of the window. Outside, a pickup truck pulls up, filled with heavily armed people. The fat, ugly bastard asks if this is Building 8 behind them and signals for his group to move in. The cop, observing this, realizes it's not the protagonist. It's a group from Bichue Mountain. One of the gang members comments that these scumbags haven't learned their lesson. The guy in the yellow shirt suggests they fight back now that the enemies are armed, but the cop warns them not to get cocky. The enemies outnumber them this time, and they are all heavily armed. He insists they stick to the ambush plan and he will head to the rooftop. As the enemy approaches, one of them says that the fools will be in close range soon. When the time comes, everyone aims their guns. Two of the cops' members peek out from the window, and one warns the others to take cover. The enemies open fire on the people inside the building, shattering the window. One of the members shields his face from the glass shards. The fat bastard orders the long-haired idiot to hand over the megaphone while the others keep their guns aimed to the window. He instructs them to shoot anyone who shows their face. Just as the fat bastard is about to speak into the megaphone, the long-haired idiot is shot in the head and dies instantly. The fat leader is shocked and screams, "Snipers!" as the body drops to the ground. The people inside the building continue firing, hitting another enemy in the leg and causing him to scream in pain. As he finishes firing his rifle, the fat, ugly bastard yells for everyone to find cover. The cop stays calm while the enemy, now in panic, screams that they have a long automatic rifle. The ugly fatty curses, realizing their intel was wrong. They were told the enemies only had pistols, including the ones they took from the 7 idiots they sent last time. That's just 4 pistols, but now they're facing automatic rifles. One of his goons asks what to do next, and the fat leader orders a retreat. The goon, scared, tries to flee, but the leader tells him to wait for his signal before they all run together. The panicked goon, however, is shot multiple times and falls dead. The fat leader curses and tells everyone to charge on his signal as the countdown begins. The fat leader orders the charge. As they begin running, the fat leader smirks. However, 2 more of his men are shot down as they flee, while one continues to run. The fat leader realizes they're probably out of ammo and begins to flee himself. The cop reloads his rifle. They all make it to the car, and the fat leader tells the driver to start the engine. One of the goons is still far from the truck, and they leave him behind. He screams for them to wait, but is shot in the head. The rest of the group manages to escape in the truck. The scene shifts to the highway, where the protagonist's bus is speeding. He notices the truck ahead and wonders who's driving it. After a moment, he decides it doesn't matter and focuses on the mission, saying that points are more important. They arrive at their destination. The protagonist remarks that the rifles they left behind have been useful. He adds that the truck they saw earlier must have belonged to the fleeing raiders. Chung Chong starts growling when he sees the bodies on the ground. The protagonist asks if he's hungry and tells him to go ahead and eat, warning it's better for him to feast than become food for other zombies. Chung Chong grins menacingly and runs toward the bodies. The protagonist tells him to meet him at Building 8 in the compound once he's done eating. Chung Chong devours the corpses eagerly. However, as he takes a bite, he suddenly stops, sensing something unusual. The protagonist walking casually through an area littered with corpses. He remarks that Li Hongli must have eliminated a lot of them. The kid peeks out the window, excitedly calling out that it's Brother Yong. The entire group waves at the protagonist as he approaches, and they greet him warmly. The protagonist asks if they drove the enemies away, and the cop confidently points to the rifle, thanking Brother Yong for leaving it with them. He proudly says he was once a skilled marksman before retiring. Suddenly, the group hears a loud zombie roar. A figure slowly approaches. It's Chung Chong, but this time he looks angry. The cop immediately aims at Chung and warns, "Careful, there's a zombie." The protagonist calmly holds the cop's rifle and tells him not to panic, explaining that Chung Chong is a friend. The cop, confused, asks if this is one of theirs. The protagonist casually tells Chung Chong to go eat the dead corpse over there. The cop asks the protagonist if he can speak to zombies. The protagonist reassures the cop that it's difficult to explain right now but offers to explain on the way back. He tells Chung to finish up and meet him at the bus when he's done. Chung Chong eating gives an okay sign. After a while, Chung Chong puts on his gas mask and walks toward the bus. The kid, seeing this, is amazed, asking how Chung Chong can even put on the muzzle by himself. The protagonist warns the kid to be careful because Chung Chong might punch him if he hears that. The kid says Chung Chong is pretty cool, and the protagonist jokingly says the kid can let Chung hear him. Chung Chong steps onto the bus, causing it to tilt under his weight. The cop, surprised, asks if the bus just shifted slightly. Chung Chong hands the protagonist the key and repeats the word, key. The protagonist asks if Chung can talk now, and Chung Chong only repeats the word, speak, as he hands over the key. The protagonist thinks to himself that after eating 6 corpses, Chung Chong seems to be evolving further as a zombie. He needs to hurry and turn these points into power to strengthen their base. They drive off at high speed, and the protagonist tells everyone to hold on as they head back. He thinks to himself that he can't let Chung Chong remain just a zombie. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the antagonists. The purple-haired BTS member looking ass man points at the fat leader, angrily yelling that he's useless and can't get anything done like an idiot. The ugly fat man defends himself, saying it's not his fault. Those enemies had automatic rifles. Lin, the gang leader, is skeptical and asks, where would a small-town cop get an automatic rifle? He accuses the fat man of lying. The fat man insists that it's true, and suggests sending someone to check if they don't believe him. The purple-haired man kicks the fat guy and tells him to get lost. The fat man, humiliated, wipes his face and, clearly annoyed, he mutters that he's had enough of this useless idiot. He then signals to take advantage of the situation and kill him. The older man in the group points out that he likely wants the woman by his side. While smiling, he told the old man, "How could you say that?" The purple-haired man jokes that they'll share, all about sharing. Lin tells Akai, the purple-haired guy, not to rush and to wait for an opportunity. The ugly fat loser overhears all of this and becomes even more enraged. The scene then shifts to his house, where he begins smashing things in a childish tantrum. His woman asks what's wrong, and he tells her to pack up quickly. They're leaving. She asks where they're going, and he says the current location will no longer be safe, so they need to plan ahead. As he's getting ready, one of his goons calls out for orders. The fat man tells him to gather the remaining members and meet at midnight to act. The woman overhears the plan, looking visibly annoyed. Back at the protagonist's base, the bus arrives. The group gets off, and the kid is amazed by the fortress, commenting that this really feels like an apocalypse stronghold. The protagonist receives a system notification. Mission complete. Recruit the survivors of Rongxiang Garden, 8 out of 5. Reward, 25 points. Bonus reward, 5 points. Current points, 66. He's pleased to see that overachieving the mission granted him extra points. He tells Chung Chong that tomorrow night, they'll head south of the city. The cop asks why, and the protagonist explains that he has unfinished business with the Bichue Mountain Group. Later, in his room, the protagonist checks the store, which has a level 2 high-tech supply box for 50 points and a manual refresh for 4 points. He decides to purchase the level 2 box, deducting the points from his balance. The system confirms the purchase, and his current points drop to 16. As the box glows with light, he says to himself, "Don't disappoint me." He obtained a physical enhancement serum plus 20 from the high-tech supply box level 2. His eyes widened with amazement. Now this is what a level 2 box is all about. After using the serum, 33 points were added to his physical stats. making him over 6 times stronger than an average human. To test his newfound abilities, he caught a mosquito mid-air with his fingers and released it, marveling at his enhanced speed and strength. The protagonist then walked outside, where the cop and Shanshan were training at the gun range. The cop greeted him. Heading south of the city now? He confirmed and suggested, your marksmanship is probably the best around here. You should train the others. The cop smiled. That's my specialty. Leave it to me. He called out to Chung Chong, and they departed on the bus. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to a fat, ugly loser and his goons. One of his men reassured him, don't worry, we should be in position by now. The fatty ordered them to move out, and as they started walking, a car pulled up, blinding them with headlights. A figure appeared in front of the car, brandishing a gun, flanked by 7 others. Inside the car, 3 figures, including the fat bastard's girlfriend and his friends, watched silently. What's going on? One of the goons asked nervously. The old man with the gun sneered. Where do you think you're going? He muttered, Gong Su. The fatty's demeanor shifted as he tried to explain their plan. We were just heading to Rongshin Garden under cover of darkness. The old man asked mockingly, Rongshin Garden? Just then, one of the goons pulled a dead body to the side and tossed it towards them, shocking everyone. Qingzi, one of the goons exclaimed, recognizing the corpse. The fatty slapped him. Does he look like Qingzi to you? Then the ugly fat bastard awkwardly explains that he doesn't know this person. The old man ordered his men to aim and take them all out. A shootout ensued, and the fatty's group was decimated. The ugly fat man cowered in fear. He looked behind him in shock. He explains, I really don't know. What are you doing? The old man pointed behind him. Take a good look at who's in the car. The fatty was stunned to see his crew and his girlfriend. The purple-haired man taunted, stop denying it. Jing already snitched on you. The fat man lost it. That bitch Jing. How dare you betray me, he yelled. The goon asks his boss, how should we handle this one? He signals him to execute him. They wrapped the rope around his neck. He started to struggle to break free. He started to pull the rope to hang him by the neck. He started to lose air and he tears up from the pain and was struggling painfully. Then he died and they left him there hanging on the fence of his own home. Back on the bus, the protagonist and Chung Chong arrived at a house. They started moving forward. Towards the house, they stopped, seeing someone hanging by a rope outside. The protagonist signaled Chung Chong to halt. Serves you right, but I regret not taking you out with my own hands, he muttered, cutting the rope and letting the fatty drop to the ground. You filthy scum. Given how tragic your ending is, I'll help you get revenge. He grabbed the fatty by the hair and promised revenge. At the window, we see 2 figures laughing. Inside, a woman was tied by handcuffs on the bed in her underwear and crying, Stop it. I made a great contribution, and this is how you treat me. She demands them to untie her. The orange-haired man approached her. This reward isn't so bad. Is it? He began to undress but noticed something outside. He walked towards the window to check while the other one is busy with the bitch in the back. He was shocked to see all the guards outside were laying dead on the ground. Suddenly, a loud banging came from the door. They shifted their focus to the door, asking what's going on, while our protagonist jumped up to the window, holding a knife in a striking position. With a serious expression, he placed the knife at the purple-haired man, catching him off guard. He slit his throat without warning, leaving the man bleeding and confused. Soon he dropped to the floor, bleeding out, while the protagonist jumped inside. The leader called out to Akai, asking our protagonist who he was, while the bitch cried out to our protagonist. Without hesitation, the protagonist threw the knife, hitting the leader, who dropped to the ground as the woman screamed for help. She called out to Jiang Xiaoyong, asking him what he wanted while she was still cuffed to the bed. He laughed and asked if they were having fun. Walking towards the door, he wondered aloud what her boyfriend, Li Shuxiong, would think if he saw her like this. She asked, Li Shuxiong? He opened the door, and Li Shuxiong, now a zombie, rushed towards the woman in a rage. She teared up in fear and panic, not knowing what to do as he reached her. He bit her while she screamed, calling out to Jiang Xiaoyong for forgiveness. He continued munching on her as Jiang Xiaoyong slowly closed the door. Later, outside, he told Chong to take the corpses and eat them. As he walked towards the corpses, he muttered to eat one at most. He noticed something and used his super hearing ability. The scene shifted to people being held captive. A fat chef approached them, holding a knife. One of his goons grabbed a kid, saying she's soft and tender, but the chef said the kid is too skinny. He pointed to a mother hugging her fat kid in fear and said to take that one instead. The goon grabbed the kid and dragged him away, while the mother screamed for help. He yelled at her, cursing and smacking her, causing her to fall to the ground. The kid ran towards his mother, calling out to her. While she was on the floor, she cries and begs them to spare her son. She begged the captives for help, but they all looked away. Suddenly, they were caught off guard by a gunshot. The door was shot with 3 holes, and one of the goons aimed his gun at the door, the chef holding a knife asking that's the sound of a shotgun and asks who still has one. While the other goon said no one, only the boss has one. The mother cried, hugging her son. The door opened slightly, and the fat chef ordered his subordinate to check it out. He hesitantly asked, "Me?" The chef told him to cut the crap and just hurry up. The idiot subordinate, shaking with fear, approached the door slowly with his gun. Suddenly, a hand grabbed him, dragging him away. They all screamed, yelling it was a zombie, and he ordered them to shoot. They started shooting towards the door. They saw Chong running outside the window and continued shooting at him. He broke the windows and flew inside at full speed. The chef, confused and scared, held his knife, not knowing what to do. Chong, moving quickly, grabbed the chef's head and twisted his neck, killing him instantly. Everyone was stunned. Chong landed and jumped towards the goons, their screams echoing outside the building. After a while, Chong managed to kill all the goons inside. One of the women asked if it was not killing them. Another looked at him, asking what was up with this zombie. The protagonist arrived and said to Chong that even with the chains and mask, he was still fast. Chong struck a pose and said it made him even cooler. They were all shocked and confused upon hearing Chong, a zombie that is capable of speaking. This is the end of this chapter. If you guys enjoyed it, please drop a like on the video and comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to not miss any updates on my channel in the future. Thank you for staying till the end, and I will see you all in the next video. So have a great day and goodbye for now.